Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It's Friday morning. Let's get straight into this one because it's a lot, guys. So yesterday in my live, I went through the probable cause affidavit for the arrest of Brian Kohberger, who allegedly murdered Ethan, Xana, Kaylee and Maddie between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. on November 13th. So I'm going to make some videos and do some lives. Don't know how many, to get through this in detail, to really deep dive and really understand what on earth went on. And in that process, I'm going to give you my opinions as I go through. So where I want to start is right at the beginning. We're going to go through, and trigger warning, I want to talk about where the victims were, who I believe was the target. So even all of that is a lot. So bear with me. I'm as mind-boggled as everybody else. When I read this live, I literally got it. It came out and I literally got it. If you were sitting in my live, I think within 5 minutes of it being released, I had this document. So I read it with you for the very first time. So I know there was things I missed, and going through it again last night, slowly in my own time, I found some things that I missed. I've watched a couple of creators doing lives on this. I've watched a lot of news reports, watched WFLA's coverage. So in all of that process, you know, I've had it read to me. So like I was reading it to you yesterday, and that does help digest things. I've had it read to me, so it's helped me digest things, if that makes sense. So we're going to start right at the beginning on page 1. So this is statement of Brett Payne, who is a corporal with the Moscow Police Department. So it was him that wrote this document based on all of the information that had been collected during the investigation. And let's be very clear, this only goes up to the last kind of entry in this is them being able to identify Brian via familial DNA. And we'll do that in another video or a show. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but it's soon, next few days. I'm just taking it really, really slowly so I pick up all of the things I missed and I don't just overwhelm people with a massive amount of information. So, Officer Smith and I, so that's Brett, entered the King Road residence through the bottom floor door on the north side of the building. So if we get the map up right here, obviously this is oriented north upwards, south downwards, east, west. Then they entered from the front. The front door is north facing. So walked up the stairs to the second floor. Smith directed me down the hallway because he's been there before. This is Brett's first time looking at the crime scene. To the west bedroom on the second floor, which I later learned through Xana's driving licence and other personal belongings found in the room was Xana Knoddle's room. As I approached the room, I could see a body later identified as Xana's lying on the floor. She was deceased with wounds which appeared to have been caused by an edged weapon. So again, he's gone up and he has gone up the stairs, and then Xana's room is in this area, okay, because that's west. So Xana's room is right here. So the blood that was coming out of the wall, if you remember, that is, I believe, said this before, I believe, was from Xana and Ethan. So also in the room was a male later identified as Ethan Chapin. So people have been saying that an entire page was redacted, and I don't think that's the case. I mean, I flicked through it and didn't notice this because, you know, sometimes when you're preparing a document, let's say you're writing it up in Word, you've got a page that appears just a spare page. But the reason I don't believe that an entire page was redacted here was for 2 reasons. One, the sentence here makes sense when you flick back through, and also the page numbers. So if that was a redacted page, that would be page 2, and then this would be page 3, but it's not, it's page 2. So I'm not sure that there's an entire page redacted, as some people are claiming. If we read this as an entire sentence, it would be one mighty coincidence if that sentence made sense after an entire page was redacted, but it does. Listen. Also in the room was a male, later identified as Ethan Chapin. Was also deceased with wounds later determined, autopsy report provided by Stockton County Medical Examiner, and then that name's been redacted. So I think when it says redacted here, it just means the document's been redacted, but I think the only things that have been redacted are names and Brian's phone number. So I missed talking about that because I didn't realise that this could have become an issue. I think this is just a spur page that has, I don't know, has just found its way in there for whatever reason. So that's just my opinion. So Ethan and Xana were both in Xana's room. I then followed Smith upstairs to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor consisted of 2 bedrooms. The bedroom to the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee's. So this side's north, south is at the back. So this is going to be west, isn't it? And then that's east. So that's Xana's room there. And then Kaylee's room's on this side here. And that makes sense. Kaylee's room's got the sliding doors. So that's Kaylee's room with the little balcony there. Maybe she had that room because of Murphy the dog, so she could just open the door and let him out. But her room is directly above the backsliding doors. So later learnt that the dog, Murphy, was in that room when Moscow PD arrived. So maybe he slept in that room, maybe he felt most comfortable in that room because it smelt of Kaylee. So Maddie's room, where both of the victims, Kaylee and Maddie, were found, is the opposite side of the 3rd floor, so that's on the east side. As I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in a single bed in the room. Both Kaylee and Maddie were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath lying on the bed next to Maddie's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed, so it was K-bar, it was a marine knife, and then the Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA. So there's only one source of male DNA. How did they know it was male? It would have possessed the Y chromosome that only males possess, and there was only one. So only one person touched that knife. And then they'd have known which male, because they'd have done a full DNA profile to match it with the familial DNA received from the trash at his parents' home. So they were able to match the Y chromosome and the DNA profile via familial DNA. Now, they'll have taken a DNA swab from him once he was arrested, but remember, this document only goes up to the point of the arrest, because that's the point of the document. So all of the investigation that they've done since, so investigating Brian Koberger, so getting his DNA, getting his fingerprints, the raid on his office at WSU, his parents' house, and importantly the apartment. So we don't know what they found in that apartment. That's part of the later investigation. All we've got is a probable cause affidavit. They might have found the murder weapon, the knife. They might have found his clothes. There's another big issue in this document in that he did a massive drive around. He was driving all around neighbourhoods, getting picked up on surveillance cameras. Why on earth he did that, I don't know, but on his way back, he was out a long time, a lot longer than he needed to be. So was he discarding items there? If so, it would have been something that perhaps they have, but they haven't put in this document because they didn't need to. We don't know. All of those details are yet to be disclosed to the public. So lots of interviews done, and they interviewed Bethany and Dylan. Bethany's bedroom is located on the east side of the first floor. The front door to the first floor is right here. So Bethany's bedroom would have been right here. And then Dylan's bedroom was on the second floor. So right here. Okay, now that was a surprise to us. We thought that both of the roommates were sleeping on the first floor and slept through it. So law enforcement have been a bit clever in what they've allowed the public to believe, because they had to protect the surviving roommates. Dylan's a key witness, so, you know, her specifically, they've got to protect her so that the killer doesn't get tipped off. They've kept stuff very close to their vest, and that's brilliant. I think the police work involved in this is astonishing, and I think we've only got a small proportion of it. There's more to come, a lot more to come in my opinion. So we know from Bethany's testimony, she was also at the Sigma Chi party. Now, we were led to believe that the surviving roommates were out somewhere else, but again, that's something that they've kept close to their vest. But I want to take us on to what Dylan said. So this timeline is fascinating, and it's difficult to get your head round. You've got to, you know, really work it through. All the occupants were home by 2 a.m. and asleep, or at least in their rooms, by approximately 4 a.m. So they might have been up chatting. You know, we were led to believe that the murders occurred between 3 and 4 a.m. They didn't. So there's a whole hour there. The household could have been talking, chatting, whatever, gone to their rooms and just be doing their own thing. We don't know. So there's an whole hour there that we didn't know about. We thought they'd already been murdered at that point. But Xana got a DoorDash order at the residence. Now, people have said, was this a ruse? Did somebody steal Xana's phone and call DoorDash, and it was actually Brian? It doesn't appear to be the case, because it says law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who reported this information. So somebody came forward and said, I delivered DoorDash to Xana and she was alive at 4. So they'll know from her phone, and they've got the testimony of the delivery driver. Now, as this thing unfolded, then it looks like the DoorDash delivery driver would have been there at the same time as Brian. So was Brian already parked round the back when the DoorDash delivery driver came? Is there a possibility the DoorDash delivery driver is another eyewitness who saw him, or at least who saw his vehicle? We don't know. Again, that's information that we've yet to find out about. So Dylan stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. She'd gone to sleep, and then she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Kaylee playing with her dog in one of the upstairs rooms. So 4 a.m, Kaylee's playing with her dog, or that's what Dylan kind of identified as. Now, could it have been Brian playing with the dog? Brian putting the dog in another room. You know, he's a friendly dog, who knows? But a camera picked up barking outside, a surveillance microphone picked up barking. So we don't know whether it was Kaylee playing with Murphy or whether it was Brian. We don't know that yet. So a short time later, Dylan said she heard what she thought was Kaylee say something to the effect of, there's someone here. So a short time after 4 a.m. So was that the DoorDash driver, Xana opening the door, receiving the delivery? Possibly. Or that could have been Brian on the 3rd floor. So Brian has got into the house. Now, we don't know how he got in because we've not been told that. But it's likely, Kaylee's family said, he went in through the back sliding doors. So those back sliding doors maybe were unlocked. And maybe he snuck in when the DoorDash driver was there. Okay. So Xana was receiving the DoorDash. Brian snuck in through the back and went straight upstairs to Kaylee and Maddie's room. And then Kaylee was saying there's someone here because she heard someone. Maybe hiding. It's a lot, guys. A review of records obtained from the forensic downloader of Xana's phone showed this could have been Xana, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using TikTok at approximately 4:12. So they've speculated that it could just have been Xana up and about. Could have been. It might not have been Brian hiding up there on the 3rd floor. It could have been Xana, but the fact that Dylan heard Kaylee say, there's someone here, you kind of think, is that someone else other than members of the household? We don't know. So we know that Xana received the DoorDash at 4, and then 12 minutes later, her phone indicates that she was on TikTok. So maybe she was eating her DoorDash and just flicking through TikTok as you do when you know, just doing stuff. So at 4:12, Xana's alive by the sounds of things. So Dylan, being woken up by this, she said she looked out of her bedroom but didn't see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. Dylan stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Xana's room. So we don't know the time of this, but this is going to be just minutes after Xana was on TikTok. She said she heard a male voice saying something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." So was that Brian? Let's put this into some kind of perspective here. We don't know the time of this, but it's sometime shortly after 4:12. So had Brian gone upstairs, Kaylee said, "There's someone here," because that was Brian, even though this speculates it could be Xana, but let's just go with this theory. This is just me speculating. Speculation alert. That he went upstairs, he snuck upstairs to the 3rd floor. He murders them, comes back down, and then goes to Xana's room. Why would he say to Xana, "It's okay, I'm going to help you"? Was that because Ethan was already dead? So had he killed Ethan first? So he's encountered Ethan, dispatched him, gone upstairs to Kaylee and Maddie, dispatched them, and then come back down. By this time, Xana's found Ethan, and Brian says, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," and then he stabs her. We don't know. That's just my speculation. But who would then be the target? I'm wondering whether it was Kaylee or Maddie that was the target, simply because he left his sheath on their bed. So if he went upstairs first, let's say, he took the knife out of the sheath in their room and stabbed them, went back downstairs. So was Ethan already dead at this point, or did he encounter Ethan coming back downstairs? That Ethan heard something. I don't know. We don't have enough information. I mean, I'm sure it will become clearer as we get more information, even if we have to wait till the trial for this. But approximately 4:17 a.m, a camera at 111 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or whimpers, following by a loud thud, and a dog can be heard barking. So Murphy barking, is that the time he was killing Kaylee and Maddie? Or is that the time there was something else going on? I don't know. Without hearing that audio, it's difficult to put it in perspective. So Dylan then opened her door for a 3rd time after she heard crying, saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. So got a good description of him, 5'10" or taller. We know Brian is 6 foot. Not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. He does have bushy eyebrows. Now, he walked past her and she stood in a frozen shock phase. So I think most of the speculation that's gone on about this case after this probable cause affidavits come out is about why Dylan didn't ring 911. And I want to do a separate video on that. Why didn't she ring 911? Is it trauma? I'm going to talk about it, either in a live or in a video. I don't think she's involved. She shouldn't be blamed. She's traumatized. She's probably absolutely guilt-ridden. You know, she'll never get over this. She'll never forget this. How close she came to being attacked as well. So did she open her door a little crack and he didn't notice her? Maybe she opened her door, but she didn't open the door fully. And he was in some kind of, euphoria or shock, having done what he'd done. So she then locked herself in the room. She didn't recognise him, and it leads the investigators to believe he left the scene. So again, we don't know what time that is. So it must be shortly after 4:17. So it says in this document that the murders occurred between 4 and 4:25. So if we know the DoorDash delivery was at 4, we know that Xana was on her phone at 4:12. We've heard Dylan say CHORLEY said there's someone here. We don't know the time of that. So did he go upstairs first? Were the targets CHORLEY and or Maddie? Goes upstairs, encounters the dog, right? Puts the dog in a bedroom out of the way. Kills CHORLEY and Maddie. Leaves the sheath on the bed. Because takes the knife out of the sheath to stab them to death. Comes back down. Encounters Ethan. Stabs Ethan. And then what's this, I'm going to help you? How does that work? Did he stab Ethan first and Xana didn't know? And then she'd encountered Ethan by the time he came back downstairs. Maybe Ethan was in the living room. Xana was in the bedroom eating her DoorDash. Encounters Ethan. Is surprised. Stabs Ethan. Xana's by this time found Ethan. Says, I'm going to help you. Stabs her. Dylan then opens a door and sees him walking through. So does this lead us to believe that it was CHORLEY and Maddie that were the targets? I kind of think it does. So there's just one more thing that I didn't notice when I read this through. So I'm not going to talk about the convoluted routes he took in this video. So I want to go on to the first paragraph of page 16, so it's towards the end of the document. Brett was granted a search warrant of the historical phone data for Brian's phone, which is the 8458 phone, in efforts to determine if Kohlberger stalked any of the victims in this case prior to the event. Conducted surveillance on the King Road residence, was in contact with any of the victims' associates before or after the offence, any locations that may contain evidence of the murders that occurred, the location of the white Elantra registered to Kohlberger, as well as his location. So he looked up all the historical records from June 2022 to the present. So this would have been all the way to December. So he was in the area of 1122 King Road on at least 12 occasions. Now, I've heard people say that that could be a wide area. Well, it depends. It depends on how specific those pings were, and we don't know that information. There'll be separate reports on that, I would imagine. So how pings work, if it's just pinging off one tower, then you've got a possible wide location of the big area that that tower might service. But if it's pinging off 2 towers or even 3 towers, then the triangulation of that ping becomes very specific. So we don't know that information as of yet. We don't know how specific it was. It could have him nailed right to King Road. It depends how many towers there are and how many towers that phone was serviced by, I guess. Also, it says further analysis of the cellular data showed that the 8458 phone utilised cellular resources on November 13th consistent with the phone travelling from Pullman to Lewiston, Idaho via US Highway 195. At approximately 12:36 p.m, the 8458 phone utilised cellular resources that would provide coverage to Kate's Cup of Joe's coffee stand, located at 810 Port Drive, Clarkston, Washington. Surveillance footage of the chef's store located at this area adjacent to Kate's Cup of Joe showed a white Elantra consistent with the subject's vehicle drive past Kate's Cup of Joe at the time consistent with the cellular data. So I said that that's just pinning the phone to his car and pinning the phone to him. But this is where Clarkston, Washington is. And did they just name that location the coffee house because it's just an identifiable location? But look here. This is the Snake River. Right here. Goes through Clarkston and Lewiston, whatever that's called. And that's the Albertsons there. Right. Okay, so Kate's Cup of Joe is right here. right next to the river. So Snake River. So did he park near here? Right, on November 13th, did he park near here? And did he throw things into the Snake River? And then he went to Albertsons, which is over here somewhere. So that's something else that we need to get into. So why did he go all the way down there? So that's Pullman. That's Moscow. So why did he need to go down there? 33 miles. 33 miles out of his way. Why did he go there? Is it because it's very, very close to the Snake River? And he discarded items in there. We can only speculate. We can only speculate, but I am going to do a video or a live going through his route. Because it's bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. But I'm going to leave it there for now. Because there's so much. There's so much. It becomes overwhelming. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. As always, I've been Michelle. Hope you're well. See you in the next video. It's goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer. Bye, guys.